There's chaos brewing inside the Cleveland Browns, and it's not because of a bad playbook or another injury, it's bigger than that. We're talking about a $52 million player exploding on the sideline, cameras catching every second, and a team owner sitting in the press box absolutely fuming. Because what just happened between Jerry Jeudy and Shadur Sanders wasn't some heat-of-the-moment frustration. It was targeted. It was public. And it crossed a line that could reshape the entire Browns locker room. During a brutal loss to the 49ers, Jeudy stormed over to Sanders, clapping in his face, yelling, "That's wrong," like he was the coach, and standing over the rookie quarterback like a man possessed. If you were watching, you probably couldn't believe it. But what happened after that moment behind the scenes, in closed-door meetings, is even more shocking. Because inside the Browns front office, Jimmy Haslam is asking one very specific question. Why is my highest-paid receiver attacking a rookie instead of catching the football? And the answer? It reveals everything that's been festering beneath the surface in Cleveland and why major changes might be coming. It happened in plain sight broadcast to millions, slowed down in replays, dissected frame by frame across social media. The moment Jerry Jeudy exploded in what can only be described as one of the most visibly aggressive sideline confrontations of the NFL season, the Browns were trailing the 49 ERs, not surprising given San Francisco's stacked defense. But what stunned viewers wasn't anything that happened on the scoreboard. It was what CBS cameras caught along Cleveland's sideline. Jeudy, with fire in his eyes, storming toward a seated Shadur Sanders like he had something to prove and nothing to lose. No helmet, no hesitation. Just a full-speed walk-up on the rookie QB, who was sitting quietly with his linemen, studying plays on the tablet. Jeudy didn't speak softly. He didn't pull him aside. He clapped hard right in Shedur's face, his body language screaming dominance, ego, frustration. "That's wrong," Jeudy barked, not once, not twice, but over and over like a coach chewing out a player, or worse, like a veteran claiming territory in a locker room he thinks he owns. Let's be clear here, this wasn't a tense exchange between teammates trying to fix a broken play. This was a humiliation performance with the cameras rolling. Shadur didn't get in Jeudy's face. He didn't escalate, but he didn't back down either, just tried to calmly respond, probably explain what happened on the last series. But Jeudy wasn't listening. He wasn't asking questions. He was laying blame, loud enough for an entire row of the bench to hear. And here's the part that sticks. Jerry Jeudy, a supposed leader, a guy with a $52 million contract and several years as a pro under his belt, needed a teammate offensive lineman Ethan Pochich to physically separate him from a rookie. Read that again. Not restrain a fight, not de-escalate an argument, separate a receiver from his quarterback after an outburst that felt personal, not professional. What was going through Jeudy's mind in that moment? Was it the frustration of a struggling offense? Was it anger over miscommunication on a route? Or was it something deeper, entitlement? Insecurity? Or maybe a long simmering ego finally boiling over when Shadur didn't serve up the perfect pass? Whatever sparked it, the entire league saw it. Clips flooded X, TikTok, YouTube within minutes. Analysts called it troubling. Fans called it embarrassing. And people inside the Browns organization? They called it something else entirely. A line crossed. Because this didn't happen in a vacuum. This wasn't the first pass Shadur missed, and it surely won't be the last. But why this reaction from this player toward this specific quarterback in this exact moment? That's when the questions started flying, not from fans online, but from inside the Browns front office. And nobody was asking harder than team owner Jimmy Haslam. He was watching from the owner's box that afternoon, as always. But when the cameras turned toward his franchise quarterback getting dressed down like a high school backup, the mood shifted. According to insiders, Haslam didn't blink. He just quietly told those around him, "That can't happen again." Because here's what people need to understand. This wasn't just a bad look. It was a breakdown of team culture in real time. A veteran publicly attacking a rookie on national television, not in the locker room, not behind closed doors, not in team meetings where accountability happens and egos get checked, but in broad daylight for everyone to see. This wasn't a player demanding excellence. It was a man making a spectacle. And what adds a whole new layer to this moment is what Jeudy had or hadn't accomplished leading up to it. After 2 full games with Shadur Sanders as the quarterback, his stat line was dismal. 4 catches on 7 targets, 2 drops, 1 costly fumble the week before. And this is the guy barking orders, throwing blame, and clapping in a rookie's face? Jeudy wasn't producing. He wasn't leading. He wasn't embodying the mentality of a vet lifting up a young quarterback through learning moments. He was undermining him. And the timing of that tantrum couldn't have been worse. Because for Shadur, this wasn't just game 2, it was still the proving ground. The honeymoon stage was over, and now every mistake, real or perceived, gets picked apart. But to get picked apart by your own teammate on live TV, that's the kind of thing that breaks quarterbacks. Or breaks locker rooms. Jeudy's outburst was so blatant, so performative, that some analysts began asking whether Shedeur had lost control of the team. But that question misses the mark. Because Shedeur never escalated. He acted calm, willing to explain, ready to take criticism like a pro. The real question is this: why did Jeudy choose to unload on him and no one else? The Browns' offense had been sputtering all year under Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco had his share of misfires too, but you didn't see Jerry Jeudy clapping at them on the sideline. You didn't see him standing over them like a dominant schoolyard bully. So why here? Why now? The fireworks on the surface were just the start, but just beneath in owners' boxes, in coach meetings, in private texts between execs, something else was shaking. Jeudy might have just crossed the one line you don't cross in Cleveland. And the owner saw everything. They say ownership sets the tone for the building. And if that's true, then Jimmy Haslam just sent a message loud and crystal clear from the very top of the Cleveland Browns. Because while Jerry Jeudy was busy clapping in Shadur Sanders' face and throwing a sideline tantrum that set sports media ablaze, Haslam wasn't just watching like a passive owner. He was taking mental notes, and according to sources close to the organization, that moment may have lit a fuse that's been building for months. Team insiders say Haslam was absolutely livid, not just with what Jeudy did, but with what it exposed. He saw it not as a heated moment between teammates, but as a complete breakdown of accountability and leadership at the exact time the franchise was trying to rally behind a new quarterback. From the outside, it might have looked like a dramatic flare-up. But to Haslam, this was something more dangerous. A signal that the culture he's trying to build, unified, resilient, and focused, was being hijacked by a player who's become more problem than producer. In fact, the quiet storm brewing behind closed doors began before players even left the field. Multiple people with direct knowledge of the postgame fallout say Haslam immediately requested meetings with two key figures the moment the game ended: General Manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski. His tone? Not casual, not curious. Straight up confrontational. Why was Jeudy allowed to behave like that? Why is a supposed leader humiliating our rookie quarterback on live television? What are we doing to fix it? That last question, what are we doing to fix it, has reportedly now become the central conversation swirling inside the Browns organization. And for good reason. Haslam isn't just a detached billionaire. He's one of the few NFL owners who's been publicly, repeatedly, and unapologetically vocal in support of Shadur Sanders. From the moment the controversial draft pick was made, Haslam has made it very clear. This kid has his backing. And that's what makes Jeudy's public lash-out so risky. See, picking Shadur Sanders wasn't a popular move. The media had a field day. Analysts like Eric Mangini flat-out suggested Haslam force the pick on his front office. Critics painted the move as an owner pushing for a flashy, polarizing quarterback simply because of who his father is. But instead of getting defensive, Haslam doubled down on the organization's process. He backed his GM, Andrew Berry, and he backed the quarterback. In his own words, "We have a good process here at the end of the day. That was Andrew Berry's call." That might sound like Haslam keeping his distance. But make no mistake, every word he's spoken about Shedeur has been deliberate. He's framed this quarterback as someone the entire building is behind, not just ownership. And in doing so, he staked his credibility and reputation on Shedeur's development. But when that same quarterback in just his second career start gets berated on the sideline by a veteran who hasn't produced, while the entire sports world watches, it undermines everything Haslam's been trying to build. What adds insult to injury is how different Jeudy's production has been from his paycheck. The Browns gave him a 3-year, $52.5 million extension, with over $41 million guaranteed. That kind of money doesn't just buy hands and route running, it's supposed to buy leadership, composure, the ability to be the adult in the room. Instead, what Haslam saw was a player collapsing under pressure and turning the blame on a rookie who was already under the microscope. Sources say the post-game meeting between Haslam, Berry, and Stefanski wasn't just a talk, it was an intervention. Not only did Haslam demand accountability, but he wanted to know why this team's highest-paid receiver felt empowered to disrespect the quarterback so publicly. One insider said, Jimmy wasn't just angry, he was insulted. Because it's not about Jerry yelling, it's about what message that sent the rest of the team. And they're right, whether players admit it or not, when a vet acts out like that and the organization shrugs it off or spins it as passion, every other player in the locker room takes note. Disrespect becomes tolerated, finger-pointing becomes normalized, and that's when the whole culture starts to slip. Haslam's been burned before. He's rolled the dice on diva players. He's seen star power become locker room poison. That's why this situation feels different. For once, he's not protecting the loudest name on the sidelines. He's protecting the quiet one, because while Jeudy was showing cameras how wrong Shedeur supposedly was, Haslam saw something else, a young quarterback getting attacked publicly and staying composed under fire. And more importantly, he saw who didn't. As one anonymous exec reportedly put it, Jeudy's not just hurting this offense, he's making it harder to develop the guy we believe in. That's key here. Haslam and the Browns seem to believe in Shedeur more than they believe in Jeudy, and this incident just widened that gap. Inside the building, the tone has shifted. It's no longer, let's get Jerry more involved. It's, does Jerry deserve to be here long term? That's where the dominoes start to line up. Because if this behavior continues, if there's one more blow-up, one more camera moment that distracts from this team's development path, Haslam will pull the plug. And this time, the vet won't be protected. The rookie will. To really understand why Jerry Jeudy's sideline eruption hit like a nuclear bomb inside the Browns facility, you have to rewind not to the start of the game or even the start of the season, but back to NFL Draft Weekend, when the Cleveland Browns made a move that changed everything. A move so bold, so divisive, and some would even say so reckless that it sent shockwaves through the league before Shadur Sanders even threw a pass in the NFL. Because when the Browns selected Shadur Sanders in the 5th round, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it lit a firestorm. Critics didn't hold back. Talking heads blasted the decision. Fans were split. And whispers started circulating almost immediately. Was this a football decision? Or a power play by Jimmy Haslam? Media outlets pounced on the idea that Haslam had gone rogue, that he overstepped the GM and head coach to make a flashy pick. Someone even alleged that head coach Kevin Stefanski didn't even want Sanders at all, and that general manager Andrew Berry was cornered into taking him by pressure from upstairs. Former NFL coach and analyst Eric Mangini went straight for the throat, saying the move was about business, not football. Others described it as a PR stunt, suggesting the Browns only drafted Shedeur for his last name, not his playmaking ability. And yet, while all of that was swirling, while media personalities were calling the pick a joke and analysts were questioning whether Shedeur even belonged on an NFL field, there was one member of the Browns organization who stood tall, never budged, and never flinched. Team owner Jimmy Haslam. He didn't just approve the pick, he defended it publicly with conviction, going out of his way to clarify that this wasn't some owner-driven ego trip. We have a good process here. At the end of the day, or that's Andrew Berry's call. That might sound like a canned answer, but in NFL circles, that's a calculated statement. Haslam was protecting two things at once: his front office's credibility and Shedur's position in the building. If this was just an owner overriding the football guys, it leaves the rookie isolated. But with that statement, Haslam gave Sanders a lifeline. You belong here, and we stand behind that. But that wasn't the end of it. As the season progressed, and Shedeur sat behind Watson, then Flacco, questions started mounting. Why wasn't he starting? If the team believed in him, why was he riding the bench? Still, Haslam kept the pressure off, supporting the coaches publicly, refusing to feed the rumors. Then came that October interview with The Athletic. Diana Rossini asked Haslam point-blank about all the noise surrounding Shedeur, the media narratives, the lack of early playing time, the speculation about behind-the-scenes drama. And Haslam delivered a message that couldn't have been more forceful without raising his voice. Listen, he's a serious football player. And inside the building, there's no noise. He comes to work every single day just like everybody else, and he's trying to get better. That's all that matters to us. Read between the lines. Haslam didn't care about social media debates, YouTube hot takes, or what some analysts said on air. His focus was simple effort, development, and long-term investment. That quote wasn't just a defense, it was a statement of intent. But here's the part no one talks about enough. By stepping out and shielding Shedeur from all criticism, Haslam unofficially hitched his own legacy to this quarterback's performance. He wasn't just protecting a rookie, he was betting on him. which is exactly what made Jeudy's public attack feel so personal. Imagine sitting in the owner's box after defending your hand-picked quarterback against a sea of doubters, watching the player you paid $52 million to support the kid clapping in his face, tearing down his confidence, and doing it all while the cameras are rolling. That wasn't just insubordination. It felt like a direct challenge to Haslam's vision of what this franchise is supposed to be building. Because whether the outside world sees it or not, Shedeur wasn't just another day 3 QB pick. Inside the Browns organization, especially in Haslam's office, this was a key piece of the future. A quarterback they could develop, build around, and maybe finally stabilize the most volatile position in franchise history. You think Jimmy Haslam is going to let a highly paid wide receiver with a history of underperformance publicly undermine that investment? Not a chance. That's why sources inside the building say Haslam zeroed in on the post-game meetings not just to vent about Jeudy's behavior, but to reassert control over the team's direction. In his mind, Jeudy wasn't just attacking a player. He was attacking progress, culture, structure, and above all, accountability. And when you're Jimmy Haslam, a billionaire owner who spent the better part of the last decade chasing relevance, watching quarterbacks fail, endure injuries, flame out, and fade away, and you finally land on a rookie who behaves like a professional, accepts criticism, deflects drama, and has the traits you've waited years to find, you don't let one wide receiver blow it up. That's why this story keeps growing. That's why Jeudy's sideline outburst wasn't treated like just another moment of frustration, but as a test. A test of the Browns' belief in Shadur Sanders. A test of whether leadership means showing up every Sunday or standing up when it counts. And a test that, make no mistake, Jimmy Haslam is watching very closely. Here's where this story takes a brutal turn, because after all the yelling, finger-pointing, clapping in faces, and posturing like he's the team general, you'd think Jerry Jeudy was carrying this entire offense on his shoulders, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Because once you take a look at the numbers, the only thing Jerry Jeudy has been leading this team in is disappointment. Let's break it down, starting with the obvious. In the 2 games where Shadur Sanders has been under center, do you want to know how many catches Jerry Jeudy has? 4. 4 total receptions. On 7 targets, that's a 57% catch rate, painfully average at best. And this is your WR1? But it doesn't stop there. In those same 2 games, guess how many times Jeudy dropped the ball? Twice. 2 killer drops in just 2 games, one of them a wide-open look that would have extended a key drive. Another play where he let the ball bounce right off his hands like it was radioactive. And that's not including the now infamous fumble last week, where he got stripped from behind like he had no clue anyone within 10 yards of him existed. Ball security out the window. Field position lost. Drive killed. That play was devastating, but the worst part? He didn't even look surprised. It was like those mistakes had become routine. And this is the guy marching up to Shadur Sanders on the bench mid-game, acting like he's the coach, the coordinator, and the team owner all rolled into one? That's not leadership. That's delusion. And you know what makes it even more frustrating? Jeudy has never shown that kind of fire when it really mattered. When other quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson or Joe Flacco were turning in messy performances, Jeudy said nothing. No sideline explosions, no clapping in their faces, no dramatic lectures. So why now? Why wait until a rookie QB in just his 2nd NFL start is taking the field against one of the scariest defenses in football, the San Francisco 49ers, to suddenly flip this fake leadership switch? That's not passion, that's bullying. Because let's not kid ourselves, no veteran wide receiver is confronting Deshaun Watson like that on the sideline. Not with Watson's contract, not with his stature, and certainly not with his personality. Jeudy knew exactly who he was going after, a rookie. The low man on the totem pole, at least on paper. He saw someone who wouldn't fight back. He saw someone who would stay composed. And he misread that silence as weakness. But if Jerry Jeudy had spent as much energy fixing his own performance as he did barking at his quarterback, maybe his stat line wouldn't be so embarrassing. Let's zoom out for a second. Through 10 full games this season with 3 different quarterbacks throwing him the ball, Jeudy has just 35 catches for 421 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. That's it. Let's do the math. That's 3.5 catches per game, a laughable total for a receiver who's being paid like a franchise cornerstone. Worse, Jeudy leads the entire NFL in dropped passes 9. Let that sink in. 9 drops. He's first in the one stat no receiver wants to lead. So when he walks over to Shadur Sanders yelling, "That's wrong," it's hard not to wonder, what exactly has Jerry Jeudy done right? Where are the clutch third down grabs? Where are the sideline toe drags? Where are the one-handed highlights that make fans forget the contract? They don't exist. Because in 2023, Jerry Jeudy has been a shadow of the player the Browns paid for. Remember, this isn't some rookie receiver still finding his rhythm. This is a fifth-year vet who came over from Denver with a reputation as a potential breakout star. The Browns gave up draft picks, handed him a 3-year, $52.5 million contract, and locked in $41 million guaranteed, all based on the belief that a change of scenery would ignite his prime years. Instead, they got a diva who drops the ball, fumbles away opportunities, sulks on the sideline, and erupts at the one teammate who's trying to show leadership. And when you consider what Shadur Sanders is up against, the lack of reps, the media pressure, the midseason transition, the contrast becomes jarring. You've got a rookie quarterback doing everything in his power to learn, grow, stay composed, and avoid the noise, while the team's highest paid receiver is out here becoming the noise. And still no accountability. When people asked Jeudy about the confrontation after the game, nothing. No explanation, no ownership, no humility. Just drama, deflection, and silence when it came time to face the music. Meanwhile, Shedeur, the so-called problem child draft pick, sat in front of a room full of reporters taking full ownership for missed throws, poor drives, and offensive struggles. He even went out of his way to protect the locker room from finger-pointing, saying, "This team isn't going to be a microwave thing." That's maturity, that's self-awareness, and it's exactly what the front office and Jimmy Haslam want in a leader. Now ask yourself this. If leadership is about how you show up when things go wrong, who showed more leadership in that game? The receiver who screamed in someone's face and then disappeared in the stat sheet? Or the rookie quarterback, who kept his cool, owned his mistakes, and stood in front of the media like a franchise player? At this point, it's more than just a personal clash. It's a culture clash. One that's exposing who's built for this league and who's still living off the hype. And Jimmy Haslam? He's watching it all unfold. To really see what's going on with Jerry Jeudy right now, you can't just look at what he's doing in Cleveland. You have to rewind a few years to a moment that told the entire football world exactly who Jerry Jeudy is when things don't go his way. We're talking about his now infamous encounter with Hall of Famer Steve Smith Sr., a moment so telling, so raw, that it continues to haunt Jeudy's reputation to this day. Let's set the stage. It was a few seasons ago. Jeudy was still with the Denver Broncos. His numbers were underwhelming, his performances inconsistent, and people were starting to ask tough questions. Was he just another overhyped first-round wideout? Was he actually a true WR1 or just a fast guy with good college tape and no real grit? On his podcast, Cut to It, Steve Smith, a man who built his legendary career on toughness, production, and a chip on his shoulder, called it like he saw it. He referred to Jeudy as a Jag, not a Jaguar. JAG. Just another guy. In other words, a player with first-round talent, but average effort, flashy on paper, invisible on Sundays. It wasn't personal. Smith was giving his honest opinion as an analyst. He didn't call Jeudy a bust. He didn't attack his character. He simply said, "He hasn't shown us anything yet." Fast forward to the next season, Smith is covering a Broncos game for NFL Network down on the sideline. He sees Jerry Jeudy on the field pregame and decides to take the high road. Smith walks up, extends a hand, and tries to apologize. He says something to the effect of, "Hey, I know I said some stuff on my show I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to disrespect you, I was just giving my take, but if it hit personal, I apologize, man." Now, pause for a second because that is rare in this sport. Most analysts would just move on. But Smith, an actual Hall of Famer, was humble enough to apologize first. He didn't need to. He didn't owe Jeudy anything, but he did it anyway, face to face, like a man. And what did Jerry Jeudy do? He looked Steve Smith dead in the eye and said, "Nah, I don't FK with you." Asterisk, asterisk. No handshake, no response, just pure attitude. And a repeat of the same message in case Smith didn't get it the first time. That moment shocked even seasoned NFL insiders. Because, let's call it what it was, disrespecting a Hall of Famer to his face after an attempt at professionalism, that's not standing your ground. That's straight-up arrogance disguised as pride. And Steve Smith didn't stay quiet. He went right back on air and let the world know, in unfiltered, unmistakable words, exactly what he thought of Jerry Jeudy's attitude. Smith said, "When teams call me and ask if they should trade for Jerry Jeudy, my answer is now no, because he's mentally unable to handle constructive criticism." And then he dropped the hammer. He's not special, he's not elite, he's not even good. He's tier 3. Replaceable. Now, if you're a 2-4-year-old wide receiver hearing that, you've got two choices. You lock in, prove him wrong, show some growth, or you double down on the ego. Guess which route Jeudy chose? Because instead of grinding, improving, and letting his game do the talking, Jerry Jeudy just kept writing new chapters for the same story. On the field, drops, mistakes, inconsistency. Off the field, attitude, finger pointing, excuses, everything Steve Smith warned about. And now, years later, he's doing the same thing in Cleveland, only this time it's not an analyst he's clashing with, it's his own quarterback. Think about it. This isn't the first time Jeudy's been called out for being emotionally immature. It's not the first time he's blown up when hearing criticism, and it's definitely not the first time he's lashed out at the wrong person. Everywhere he goes, Denver, Cleveland, maybe wherever's next, this behavioral pattern follows him like a shadow. When things go wrong, deflect. When you're not producing, blame someone else. When criticized, attack the critic. When held accountable, play victim. That's not leadership. That's not maturity. That's not a player you build around. And the Browns didn't bring him in to be a problem. They brought him in to be a weapon, a mentor, a veteran voice, someone who could help bring along a young QB and stabilize an offense that's been anything but consistent this year. But instead of lifting Shadur Sanders up, he's trying to tear him down in public, in front of cameras, and with zero regard for how it makes the entire team look. And the worst part? Every warning sign was already there. You think Jimmy Haslam doesn't remember the Steve Smith incident? You think Andrew Berry didn't hear the headlines? Of course they did, and they still gave Jeudy the benefit of the doubt, a clean slate, a massive contract, and a prominent role in the offense. But when the pattern continues in a new city, with new teammates, and the same attitude, that's no longer about past mistakes catching up. That's just who Jerry Jeudy is. Here's the part that's got people inside the Browns facility, including ownership, shaking their heads. Because out of all the quarterbacks Jerry Jeudy has played with this season, he only exploded like this once. Not when Deshaun Watson was missing wide-open reads. Not when Joe Flacco was launching passes into double coverage. Not when turnovers and failed drives plagued the offense week after week. No. The only time Jerry Jeudy decided to clap in a quarterback's face, invade personal space, and bark like a coach who'd just been betrayed was when Shadur Sanders was under center. And that raises a very uncomfortable question. Why now? Why him? Let's be honest, veterans know how these power dynamics work. In NFL locker rooms, not all quarterbacks are treated equally. The unwritten rules are clear. You don't speak to a franchise guy like that. You don't show up a made man, especially not on camera. If you've got an issue, handle it behind the scenes like a pro. And in cases like Deshaun Watson, forget about it. You're not clapping in the face of a guy with a $230 million guaranteed contract who walks around the building with ownership-level authority. That would be career suicide, and Jeudy knows it. Same goes for a veteran like Joe Flacco, former Super Bowl MVP. Been there, done that. He walks into a locker room with automatic presence. You don't roll your eyes or erupt on guys like that, even if they get it wrong. So when Jerry Jeudy decided to let his temper off the leash and confront Shadur Sanders, a fifth-round rookie in just his second NFL start, it wasn't just about a blown route or a missed opportunity. It was about taking a shot where he thought he wouldn't get hit back. That's not leadership. That's not accountability. That's opportunistic. It's calculated. And more than anything, it's cowardly. Let's not pretend Jeudy was just overwhelmed with passion for winning. If this was truly about competitive fire, why didn't he show that same energy earlier in the season, when the offense had completely flatlined under Watson? Where was this loud, passionate critique when veterans were underperforming? He only went at someone who, in theory, couldn't answer back. But here's the mistake Jeudy made. He picked the wrong rookie to try and dominate. Because even though Shedeur doesn't have the pro resume yet, he carries himself like somebody who's been here before. He didn't lash out, he didn't escalate, and he didn't fold under pressure. Instead, he continued to compose himself like a professional, responded in his post-game presser with nuance and class, and blamed no one, even when he easily could have. That response made Jeudy's outburst look even worse, and Jimmy Haslam knows it. When ownership sees a so-called leader implode in public, then sees the youngest, least experienced guy on the field handle it better than everyone else, the priorities start to shift fast. Because now, it's not about who's the flashiest name on the roster. It's about who makes the locker room stronger, about who you build around for the next 5 years. Jerry Jeudy thought he was sending a message by confronting Shedeur like that, but the message that actually landed was this: I can't handle pressure, so I'll punch down instead. And trust me, players notice that. Locker rooms are tight communities, and respect doesn't come from paychecks or clout. It comes from how you carry yourself when the lights are brightest and tensions are highest. For now, the team is saying the right things publicly. Coaches are deflecting, players are staying diplomatic. But insiders say the energy inside the building has changed since that outburst. Not just because Jeudy created a distraction, but because of who he targeted. He didn't pull a young receiver aside to push him, didn't challenge the offensive line to up their protection. He went at the one guy Jimmy Haslam is trying to protect most. And let's not forget something important here. Jeudy is replaceable. Yes, he has talent, but there's talent all over the league at wide receiver. The Browns gave up a low-cost trade package for him, a 5th and a 6th, and now, based on performance and attitude, he's inching closer to liability than asset. But Shadur Sanders? He's not replaceable. Not if you believe, like Haslam and some in the front office reportedly do, that he could be the future of the franchise. You don't trade away a young, smart, mentally tough quarterback who's learning and improving each week. That's the real power shift happening in Cleveland right now, and Jerry Jeudy's actions may have exposed a very harsh reality. He's not the star anymore. He may be the one with the big contract and more years in the league, but in terms of building blocks, he's not the priority. In fact, he may be the problem. And when a problem gets in the way of the quarterback the owner is backing, there's only one outcome. Jeudy thought Shedeur was an easy target. Turns out, he might have just targeted his own exit. In professional sports, you can tell who's a real leader not by how they act when they win, but by how they carry themselves when everything crashes around them. And on that sideline, while Jerry Jeudy was clapping in his face, barking like a frustrated coordinator, and turning a tough Sunday into a viral spectacle, Shadur Sanders didn't flinch. No shouting match, no sideline meltdown, no chest thumping over who's the real alpha. Just calm body language, composed eye contact, and the kind of restraint that you usually see from seasoned veterans after a decade in the league. But Shedeur wasn't done there, because after the game still stewing from the loss, fresh off a 3-and-out series that triggered the blow-up, and with cameras now in his face, instead of Jeudy's, the rookie quarterback walked into his first major firestorm as a starter, and handled it with complete class. Let's talk about what he could have said. He could have lit up the podium. He could have pointed out that Jeudy had a terrible game, dropped multiple passes, and once again failed to separate from coverage. He could have said, I can't throw to a guy who isn't where he's supposed to be. He could have ripped the play calling, questioned his receivers, or blasted the lack of chemistry. And if he had, fans would have nodded in agreement. Analysts would have taken his side. No one would have blamed him. But Shedeur didn't do any of that. He stepped to the microphone, took a breath, and did what true quarterbacks do, put the blame squarely on his own shoulders. When asked about the offense's struggles, he said, "It wasn't the best. It was a comfort level. As players and teammates, we have to be able to gel with each other and be comfortable with each other in every situation, and that takes time." He didn't throw Jeudy under the bus. He didn't even mention the outburst. He simply pointed out, with surgical precision, the actual issue. No chemistry, no rhythm, no alignment. And then came the real gem. A line that probably had the Browns front office whispering to each other after the presser. This team is not going to be a microwave thing. That one sentence? Pure gold. Pure maturity. Because what is he really saying? He's saying, this isn't instant success. You can't just plug me in mid-season and expect perfection. I'm learning. We're all learning. It's going to take time to cook this the right way. That's not just leadership. That's long-term thinking. He didn't deflect. He didn't panic. He stayed grounded and told the truth, even when it would have been easy to make someone else the villain, someone like, say, Jerry Jeudy. But Shedeur wasn't done. Later in the presser, a reporter tried to bait him, subtly lobbing a question that would have given him the perfect excuse to criticize the coaching staff. He was asked whether he agreed with Stefanski's aggressive fourth down play calls, an obvious setup to cast doubt after a few failed conversions. And Shedeur instantly cut it off. "First of all, that's a rude question," he said. "We're not going to be here and point fingers at no coach. That's extremely disrespectful. No hesitation. No second guessing. Just immediate, firm backing of his head coach." Let's zoom out for a second. This is a rookie quarterback who has had no luxury of redshirt development. He's been thrown into a messy offense mid-season with no preseason starter reps, inconsistent receiver play, and national-level scrutiny following his every move, and yet he's defending his coach, defending his teammates, deflecting drama, and doing it all with more poise than players 10 years older. And this is what ownership circles remember after a loss. That moment matters more than a stat line, more than a back shoulder throw, more than a scramble that nearly picked up a first down. Because what separates a starter from a franchise, QB, isn't arm talent. It's how they weather storms. And Shadur Sanders showed something that you can't teach in film rooms or training camps: composure under fire. With the world watching. So when Jimmy Haslam sat down with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry after the game, yes, he was angry. Yes, he wanted answers for Jeudy's immature outburst. But privately, deep down, he also knew something else. He saw a leader emerge, not a polished star, not a stats monster, but a quarterback with the intangibles, the attitude, the accountability, the quiet strength you can build a winning culture around. And if you think that doesn't matter in ownership decisions, you haven't been around NFL front offices long. Because while Jerry Jeudy was providing drops and distractions, Shadur Sanders was showing something far more valuable: resolve, emotional intelligence, clairvoyance beyond his years. And when a player can do that, especially one you've staked your credibility on, the way Haslam did when he publicly defended drafting Shedeur, that means something. It means the rookie won the moment. So whether the Browns win 5 more games or none, one thing became clear to everyone watching that night. There's a quarterback in Cleveland built for the long haul, and it's not Jerry Jeudy. Behind the scenes of every NFL team, there are moments that quietly tip the scale. Moments where the decisions that really matter, the contracts, the trades, the personnel shifts, are made not on impulse, but in response to something bigger than football. Jerry Jeudy's meltdown on the Browns sideline may have seemed like a single, isolated outburst, a clash of egos in the heat of the game. But inside the walls of the Browns facility, it was a breaking point. Sources with direct knowledge of internal meetings say that within hours of the Jeudy-Shedeur incident, Jimmy Haslam's tone shifted from supportive owner to frustrated enforcer. No more sugarcoating. No more sidestepping. No more excuses. He reportedly told both GM Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski, point blank, "This can't happen again." And these weren't just words. Behind the scenes, Haslam began pushing a very clear message. This franchise will not tolerate me-first attitudes, locker room division, or players who undermine the culture they're trying to build, no matter how big their contract is. Because for years, the Browns have been a revolving door of failed experiments, talented guys who never lived up, egos that never shrank, and big names who delivered small results. Haslam has seen enough, and Jeudy, right now, is starting to look like the poster boy for everything the Browns are trying to move on from. High contract, low production, zero accountability. The numbers are brutal. 9 dropped passes leads the entire NFL, just 1 touchdown all season. Over $52 million in salary, and he's averaging less than 40 receiving yards per game. Think about it. The Browns didn't draft Jerry Jeudy, develop him, and build their system around him. They traded a 5th and 6th round pick, hoping he'd unlock some untapped potential and elevate their locker room. But instead, they got someone who's only elevated the drama. And if there's anything the Browns have learned the hard way in recent years, it's this: drama kills momentum. Drama poisons young quarterbacks. Drama gets you beat on Sundays. And when that drama comes from a player who isn't producing, he becomes expendable. Fast. Privately, the front office has already started having real conversations about Jerry Jeudy's future, and there are whispers that a trade this offseason is not just possible, it's probable. Some close to the situation say that Jeudy could even be shopped before the trade deadline if tensions rise again. Because at this point, the Browns brass is no longer asking, "Can we get more out of him?" Now they're asking, What are we really getting for $52 million? Is he helping our quarterback or stunting him? How long until he becomes a full-blown locker room cancer? And with each dropped pass, each sideline scowl, each lost opportunity, Jerry Jeudy drifts closer toward that answer. No wide receiver wants tied to their name. Not worth it. Meanwhile, Shadur Sanders' stock, even in defeat, is quietly rising. No, he hasn't blown the doors off statistically. Yes, he's still raw in places, but in terms of poise, presence, buy-in from leadership, he's checking all the boxes that actually matter to franchise builders. Jimmy Haslam sees it. That's why Stefanski has already confirmed that Shedeur will remain the starter heading into Week 14 and beyond. This isn't an experiment anymore. It's a development arc, a long-term play, and the team is now investing in the biggest intangible of all: trust. The Browns' offensive staff is reshuffling to support him, simplifying the scheme to fit his style. Linemen are speaking publicly about protecting our guy. Even veteran players are reportedly stepping up behind the scenes, trying to close the gap between Shedeur and the receivers who haven't quite figured out how to sync with him. Everyone's adjusting except Jeudy. And if that doesn't change, Jimmy Haslam's decision is already made. Because when a player publicly attacks your quarterback, the one you handpicked in the draft, defended to the media, and backed with executive support, you get one strike. One. And Jerry Jeudy just used it. Now, with 5 games remaining in the season, all eyes are on how the Browns respond. Can they salvage a playoff push? Can Shadur take his next step as the leader of this offense? And most importantly, can Jerry Jeudy grow up, or will he blow it all up? Because if there's one more incident, one more locker room distraction, one more viral video of Jeudy putting himself above the team, Cleveland won't hold back. They'll move on, cut their losses, and send a message to the entire NFL. This is not the same old Browns. This team is building something new around accountability, growth, resilience, and real leadership. And whether Jerry Jeudy stays or goes, that foundation is going to be built with or without him.